All right, well, we're going to get this started, and I have a handful of questions that I'm going to ask you guys, but I want to first start off just by thanking you again for being here today. This is a great crowd. We're normally in a different building. We had to move over here because of the demand, which is awesome. I think it speaks to the fact that everybody wants to hear from you. It is Day of Giving, as was mentioned several times, and I'm about to go into about a 30-minute stretch of not checking the website. So I'm going to do it one more time. We're up to $41,000 raised from 114 gifts. So by my count, we're about 10% of the way where we might end up today. So if you get a chance to get out there to the website and make a gift today on Day of Giving. We're going to spend a lot of time talking about growth today. Growth here at Washburn, growth in that Day of Giving total, growth at Advisors Excel, and growth in Topeka. And we know that growth just for the sake of growth isn't always good. So let's start with, what does successful growth look like for Advisors Excel, and what does it look like for the city of Topeka?
You go first? Okay. Well, yeah, thanks for having us too. So excited to be here on this day. And I told you right before I went up, it hit me, I didn't mention it today, but February 1st is actually the day we started Advisors Excel. So ironic
I also have to jump in and say it's also the first anniversary of Dr. Mazicek's presidency.
So on the topic of growth, I think one of the things Dave and I talk about a lot. I think we talk to even the advisors we support. Is like, not all growth is good growth. So growth does complicate things, right? Our life was much easier when it was just me, Dave, and Derek than it is with 950 people. So growth does complicate things. So I think from a business standpoint, we're always focused on if growth doesn't lead to, candidly, like more profits, it's kind of insanity, right? There's no reason to, complicate your life if it isn't improving your life, I guess, in theory, right? So I think even as we've added people, a lot of our leadership's right here at the front. So Matt really has to deal with most of the people problems, which is nice. That's an example of growth. You hire good people that take the problems off your hand. You don't have to deal with them anymore. So I think that's just smart growth. I think even when you look at as a community, I think us being smart, even from a Washburn standpoint, smart in how we grow, right, is really, really important. So you want to grow in the right ways. You don't want to do things that are going to complicate your life, or the aspect of a Washburn or Topeka, complicate the community either. So
it's great. All right, let's do one on leadership, and we know that leaders are always evolving in their style. Whoever takes this question, how has your leadership style evolved from where you started in your profession to where you are today?
I think I've got two things I'd say about it. I'm very thankful not only for our team growing, which helped, but I think kids helped a lot in this too. I've relaxed a lot. I think I made a lot of things that I made like, oh gosh, this is such a life-changing decision that it didn't matter that much. And so I think it created maybe undue stress around, not only personally, but also on the team. Because it seemed like every decision was super, super important. I think today, I had actually meetings yesterday. I had teammates in, leaders of our organization, and they've got huge problems. I just kept saying, I think that problem's smaller than you're making it. Maybe we just slow down, figure out what the next step is, take that next step, see how that goes, and then we'll take one more step. So one thing I'd say is in the early days, I think I made it all big, and truth is most of it, I think over time I learned we're going to make 20 decisions a day, 20 decisions a day times 250 days a year. It's a lot of darn decisions, and that'll be okay. So that'd be number one. I think number two, most of these are really, actually, the question was personal. So I'm a type A personality. I really like to win. I like to get things done. I enjoy results. That's just how I'm wired, because God put me on this earth, and that's what He said you're going to be. That's who you are. I don't know if that changes a lot. But early days, my leadership style was very much that if you weren't a type A personality, I thought you were not a type A personality.
What he means is he didn't like you.
probably even gets worse than that. I sometimes question a lot of things. So, that being said, what I realized was there's a role for like a type A personality as a leader, but and it didn't mean I had to, I didn't have to change the standards I expected of people. I didn't have to change the numeric drivers that I wanted to see them achieve, but I had to communicate differently with those. I couldn't just make it about the win. As I figured out more and more how some people, they really just genuinely enjoy doing a great job based on what they were asked to do from 8 to 5. Those are actually world-class people. Their type is more of a helper in what they do. When I was able to meet them at where they were and realize it was not their job to change, it was my job to change, my leadership greatly improved over time. So those would be a couple things that I think that I've had to change quite a bit on. And it's, to be clear, both of those are a significant journey that will change. It'll be a unique problem that I'll personally deal with. I'll tell you, if you're an individual leader, you should know where you stand on that. Like, there's 500 surveys, you don't need 500. Just look up type A, type B, type C, type D. Decide which bucket you're in and understand how you connect with other people. I think some of those surveys just cause more problems than necessary and confuse people. I think some of them now have like over 90 different things you are. I'm like, how do you ever figure out what to do with that? 4, that's it. Keep it easy.
One thing I'd add, even if you think about our business, let's say 20 years, right? The first 10, these past 10 or 9, whatever. I think for the longest time, Dave and I probably, and Derek, led by our effort, right? So we did a lot of the stuff, I would say the first decade, it was a lot of effort, and not that that's changed completely. I think, we're both very big believers that the leader of the organization still sets the pace for the organization. So Dave and I still work pretty hard. I think we both enjoy it. I say hard. It doesn't feel that hard. We just work. But I think the thing that's probably shifted the most, and it was also, candidly, and it's funny, it's the conversation we have a lot with the advisors we work with, it was learning to lead through other people. And, our leadership style had to change to where it was more investing in our other leaders. And that's hard when you start a business and you know everything that's going on in the business, and then you have to make this shift to where you have to trust other people to take some of those things. We weren't very good at it for, kind of a few years there, but I think over time we really figured that out. That's been a big part of it. It's nice to be in a place in the business where we generally know what's going on in the business, but we don't know the details necessarily of what's going on in the business because we've got a great team around us that does that. So that was a hard transition, but I would say that's probably the biggest shift for us too, is that we've learned how to lead other people that are also influencing and impacting the organization.
Yeah, that growth from the 3 of you to nearing 1,000, as Susie talked about earlier. What did it take to get to that level, and what do you think it takes to continue, other than hiring people like Matt Meyer to help manage it, to continue to retain employees and continue to grow your workforce?
Sir?
Yeah.
I do think hiring the right people, and what I just said, one of the things that we fundamentally believe is the growth of the organization can never outpace the growth of the leader of the organization. So I think Dave and I are both, big personal development junkies and spending a lot of time and a lot of money trying to become better leaders consistently and have tried to model that for the organization. But then I think that goes down to that next level, right? For us, I think the big thing is other people in leadership role, and I think this has been a huge focus over the last probably 4 or 5 years now, maybe even a little longer than that, is how are we developing that next level of leaders within the organization? Because as the organization gets bigger, people don't necessarily leave a job, they tend to leave the person that they report to is what would force them out. So I think development of that leadership team within the organization has been a huge focus. And I say all the time, I don't know that I've ever felt better about the team that we have in place right now and their commitment to growing as leaders. So that's a huge part of it. I think in retaining, continuing to grow and retain, one of the things that's been important to us is, I said finding the right people, but I think it's really establishing what we want our culture to be and finding the people that fit that. So I'm aware we're not a culture that's for everybody. Dave kind of joked about it, but I do think there's a certain expectation of effort that we have that doesn't match and fit everyone, right? And there's a lot of people that don't probably want to work at the level that we want to work at, and that's okay. There are a lot of opportunities for them out there, but like that's just kind of an expectation we have. I think we're pretty big believers in connection and community. I think we were probably the first employer, I would say over 500 employees who returned everyone to the office post-COVID, and we did it pretty quickly. I think we did it after Memorial Day, and so we've been pretty outspoken that we're not going to be a remote work culture, and we'll see if that's right or wrong 10 years from now. I think a lot of those decisions we'll know in the future, but I think we see work as an opportunity to have some connection and community. I think it's one of the last few places a lot of people have that, so that's important to us. And so, we awesome people that want to be remote workers, and that's cool with us. Like it doesn't bother us, right? Because we know what we're trying to build, so we try and recruit around that. I think would be a big one. So.
Only other thing I'd say is in different organizations that are different, how you look at it. If you could probably already feel, I think Cody and I are in about 15 minutes. I think we said the word growth about 90 times. Our team's used to that.
What is the theme?
Okay, but it's the theme at AD too, just so you know. The one thing that does drive is if you're going to grow, you're going to change. And I think we've also been really good at attracting teammates locally that are pretty cool with their job looking a lot different 2 years from now. Their environment looking a lot different 2 years from now. Their expectations potentially looking different 2 years from now. And that's not for everybody. Growth, in my mind, means change. And we need people with a lot of energy around passion, around change, because Cody and I, we don't know what it will look like in 5 years. You get into those questions. We often say we can maybe give some clarity of what 3 years from now looks like. We can't give a lot of clarity of what 5 to 10 years from now are going to look like. But one thing we do know is it's going to be different than it is today. And we're going to be open-minded to changing what we do and how we do it to make sure we're on the cutting edge doing the best we possibly can at that time. But I will say that is a challenge for some people. Some people, they prefer a lot of certainty in their life. And for us, that's a trait we have to attract. We have to attract people that enjoy that environment, and then repel those that don't.
Okay. This next question is a lot more interesting now that I know that Dave didn't used to like people who weren't type A. So you were roommates in college. At what point did you realize your personalities complement each other and that working together would make each of you more effective leaders?
Well, I read that question before, and I don't know how to answer. So, Cody, you can answer a specific question if you want to. I'll give just the answer I laid out that I can think about. One thing that makes our partnership really, really good is, oddly, like you may have heard a little bit, even in the paths we took in college. I tend to be very excited about execution and leadership and checklists and moving people forward. If they're here, we're going to go over there. You can give me a tactic. I don't care if it takes 1 year, it takes 3 years. We're going to get that. We're going to take that hill and we're going to get that done.
And I go.
And I wasn't going to say that, but okay, you did. But Cody's a lot stronger on vision, and he's a lot stronger on marketing. And him and I have found a unique way to approach this business to where we truly operate as co-CEOs. And I can take what I really love and am good at and excited about and run with it. He can take what he's good and excited about and run with it. And then we come together once a week and talk about it. Because we can pretty much finish each other's sentences, because we've known each other now for almost 30 years, it really, really works. But I think the biggest thing of that, trying to get close to the question, is we are very different in what we enjoy in business and day to day. But we are very aligned on where we think advisors excel are going, and we're jacked to take it there. And I think that's really, really important. I don't know if you can actually answer the question.
Well, I thought about it when I saw the questions. I would actually go back. So fundamentally, I think there's a few things, right? We've known each other for a long time, so I think trust has just been built over time. I think we both implicitly trust each other and know we want what's best for the business. What's interesting, when we started, when Derek was with us, for the first 12 years, we had always had this rule on major decisions that it would just be a majority rules because we had 3 of us. And it didn't even have to be necessarily a major decision, right? we just, for a long time, the three of us would talk about stuff and make a decision. And we voted quite often, probably. Where it was like we didn't all necessarily agree, so we would vote on it. Ironically, Dave and I were the ones who tended to have maybe little different viewpoints on it. So Derek always got stuck as the swing vote. Or he was just slow to respond, so had to, Dave and I would respond quickly. But one of the things when we went through that process and Derek stepped out and we bought him out of the business, we actually talked a lot about how we're going to handle that to try and avoid conflicts. And that was probably 6 years ago now, I think. One of the things we talked about was pulling together 3 members of our leadership team that would be closest to the topic we were discussing and basically make them vote. And what's interesting about that is I think that was the point where we probably did start realizing how well our strengths complemented each other, how well they work together. We definitely divide up duties within the organization. There are certain departments that report to me, certain report to Dave, and I think we've just let each other kind of take and run and lead those. Doesn't mean he won't give me input or I won't give him input, but ultimately the things that he's closest to, him make the final decision. So in those 6 years, we've never actually voted on anything. So we've always just kind of come to an agreement. And I think some of that is just realizing that our strengths do complement each other really, really well. To the point, even some of the stuff that I do outside of AE, I've made sure that I hire people that are more like Dave, right? That are really good at task and getting things done and like building a checklist and checking things off of that, because I really don't enjoy that at all. But I like imagining what can be and then having someone else do the day-to-day stuff to execute that. So yeah, I'd say that's the point really.
All right, well, you touched a little bit on hiring and retaining talent and on virtual work. So I'm going to go ahead and move past that next question because you touched on those. And I want to get on to something that I know is on everybody's mind in the room. I'll ask it before we open it up for questions because I know they're going to ask it. It's been noted with the purchase of Westridge Mall that you're likely to move AE headquarters there. What do you see as the future for the mall in the next 5 to 10 years?
Pretty sure that's the only reason people showed up. A question I get a lot. So Dave, you want to take that one? No. So this would be an example of one of those areas where this probably fits a little bit more in my strength zone. I think I'll give you a long story short. We looked at the mall probably 5 or 6 years ago now. We were actually looking at the Burlington space when we knew we were out of room at McClure. So we're trying to figure out what our expansion was going to be. And we looked at that space pretty seriously. It was like 150,000 square feet, which was a lot of additional space. I think our concern at the time was we were watching, what was going on at White Lakes. You have Mainline out there who invest all this into this nice building, and then you have this mall fall apart around you. And at the time, I think there was just a lot of uncertainty around the mall. So we kind of passed on that. That's actually when we bought Gage Center, which was about the same square footage, just a little different setup. So we looked at the mall and actually thought about it 6-7 years ago for office space. Kind of came back around because 2 years ago-ish now, we realized that Gage ultimately was probably, the strip center originally, we were going to convert that into retail and then realized our growth is outpacing what we thought and we're going to need that for office space. And then we kind of realized that's maybe not going to be enough and we're going to run out of space here in the next I think we've got space for the next 3 years or so. Matt says no. So we were starting to look for, what are our options? Obviously, I've done a lot of stuff downtown. We've looked a bunch down there, talked about building. I think one of the things that we've tried to do is leverage this business to impact the community in a positive way. And it doesn't mean building a new building wouldn't have done that, but I think we've looked for some opportunities to find some spaces that we could renovate and invest back into to maybe breathe some life back into. And that's probably my passion, and Dave just rides along on that a little. So, Westridge started popping back up when you look at just square footage of what we would need and some of that. It was the one that kind of kept coming back to him and Amy saying I think this may be our best option. And so over time, I talked him into it, I guess, but I think it's just a way to say it. But there are a few things, right? Candidly, as a value investor, we bought it at a great price, right? We bought it for, $9 or $10 a square foot, which costs you $450 to build something new. So I think we were able to buy it at a price that we felt very comfortable with. And then I think so everyone wants to know what we're going to do with it. The reality is we don't know completely, right? We actually just hired a developer. That news will probably come out maybe today or tomorrow out of Dallas. It has done a lot of big mall redevelopments to help us kind of concept. Generally speaking, I do know what we want to do. I just don't know, the specifics. We do plan to move our office there. I think at least the vision is maybe that Burlington into the mall and build out on the backside, which is a great retail space. We feel like the idea of, potentially, and I don't think we'll move both offices there right away. It'll probably be a phased approach over the next 5 years, but ultimately having 1,000+ employees on that campus every day, we think is attractive to other businesses within the mall. And then, so if you were thinking about just percentages, let's say we take 25% of the space in there. We don't own Sears Building, we don't own Penny's, we don't own Dillard's, we don't own Furniture Mall. I think there's some misconception around that. So trying to probably do some stuff with those long term. But if we took 25% for office space, I think our vision is to have 25% of the space be more service-based. So I know there's actually a tattoo place opening today, like their grand openings today. There's kind of a health, wellness, longevity clinic that's opening up in there. So I think we want to mix some services in. And of that 25%, I would say also some local business. And then, convert some of the space into great retail space for national tenants. So we've got to go attract some national tenants. We feel pretty comfortable in some that we have some good leads on. So maybe half of it has anchors, with some national tenants there. And then I think we'll probably reimagine the food and entertainment concept out there a little bit. Probably convert to food court. We'll probably eventually move that somewhere else, make it more of a food hall concept and try and create, some sort of entertainment, like a chicken and pickle, smash park, some things like that have been pretty popular. Figure out a way to incorporate that out there too, in a way where it could be part of the mall, but you could also shut the mall down at night and still, have the dining and entertainment as a component of that. So, but that's a vision that I think is probably a 3 to 5 year, kind of game plan to execute that. I think the thing with both of us is I think people want to see immediate changes, and most of the immediate stuff you're going to see is just like trying to fix all the stuff that should have been fixed over the last 10 years that haven't, like escalators working, which they were so bad, like the parts are being custom made, and one's like, why aren't you fixing them? I'm like, trust me, we put that order in the day we bought it, and they're making the parts somewhere in Bright China, I guess. I don't know, but it's taken a while to get them there. But they are here, and they're starting to repair them. So I think you'll see a lot of that. Probably some smaller businesses, and we'll try and get some anchors here probably within the next 12 months too.
Okay. Well, I'm thinking 3 to 5 years sounds pretty fast, given the current state. So.
Yeah, but I would say, I tell people this all the time. I kind of forgot it just because I don't go there. There are some great stores in there, right? I mean, there are really some great national chains that are still in there. The mall it's actually in pretty good shape. So if you look at, if I were to compare it to other properties I bought, like it's in really, really good shape, right? There's some cosmetic things, and we'll renovate some things, and escalators don't work, some of that, but generally speaking, the structure's pretty good. So that's why I don't think it'll take us a long time, because there's some good foundation and good bones there.
Okay. What do you feel is the largest economic struggle that Topeka faces, and what role do you think Washburn can play in the solution?
Those are 2 questions I told you were going to answer.
Okay. From a Topeka standpoint, I think population growth is, that's probably the biggest driver for our economy. I think we're seeing some positive trends in that way, in that direction. I think that's helpful. I think, but over the next 10 years, smart population growth would be probably the most important thing that we could do as a community. Part of the reason I've always said I think Washburn and Topeka are so linked, you look at Dave and I, we came here for Washburn, we stayed here. So many of the people I know that are making an impact in this community didn't necessarily grow up here, but they moved here, came to Washburn, and put down roots here. And that's why I think Washburn is so directly connected to Topeka's success. So, enrollment growth at Washburn is going to have a positive impact on population growth in Topeka. So, I think those are two that are, fairly obvious there as far as what we can do. I think one of the benefits Topeka has is we actually do, and I'll tie this back into Washburn, I guess, we have a well-diversified economy. I think if you look at even going through COVID, we were a community that wasn't really impacted all that much because, banking and financial services, manufacturing, government. We just have a really good base of business here in Topeka. Healthcare obviously is a huge one here too. So I think that's positive that we can build upon. So tying it back, I guess, into the Washburn question too. I've talked a lot about this, so it's nothing new that you haven't heard me say, but let me say it a different way. Washburn has an opportunity that no other school, I would argue, I won't say Division II, but for sure I would say if you look at even the conference, if we're in the MIAA conference, there is not a stronger opportunity for kids to come to school, find an internship, and find a great job after school than there is if Washburn and Topeka can really lock arms and figure that out, because we just have a business base here that no other town, if you think about our rivals as a university, no other town has anything like it. So I think figuring out how we really tell that story well and really build upon that is a huge opportunity. Even my son's a freshman right now. I shouldn't say unfortunately, at K-State, not Washburn, but when we visited Arkansas, everyone was talking about how awesome Arkansas was, how kids love it. I didn't get it, I'm not gonna lie. I went down there and I wasn't all that impressed, but I will say the one thing that they did, you didn't meet a person there who didn't talk about J.B. Hunt, Tyson, and Walmart, and how if you came to Washburn, or if you came to Arkansas, you were going to get a great job at one of those three places because of all these opportunities that they created, right? They talk all the time about how those were investing in the community and how. So I think that's probably our biggest opportunity when you think of both of those. How do we grow the population? It starts with enrollment growth, and how do we show those students that there's going to be these incredible jobs for them when they get out of college also, which is a huge opportunity.
Yeah. All right. Well, the enrollment growth has begun. So what are you most excited about when it comes to the growth of Washburn University?
I think there's a couple things that just kind of the initial momentum. Because Cody was talking about this with this community. I'm excited with just an intentional effort to win Shawnee County. Probably my competitive nature says that any good kids here we should fight to keep them here. And it should be an unbelievable place to live and work and succeed. And I was telling a story actually. I took my daughter to the KU, and she took a couple friends to the KU game, and we got into conversation about where they're going to school, and it was very much focused in their case. All three of them thought KU was their answer, and which was fine. I think as a juniors, they were just thinking where they thought they could have the most fun. And we were going down the field house, which probably timing-wise makes it kind of cool. I know. Greatest place in the world to watch basketball, but we won't get into all that for right now. But the conversation really went down to, as we were talking, I said, well, share with me what you think your class size is going to look like. Share with me what you think your interaction with professors is going to look like. Share with me how they're going to connect you to anything other than it's kind of a cool town, a cool. And it was super interesting to hear these ladies chat through what they thought about. And then they were talking about all the scholarship money they were going to start applying for. And I'm like, well, wait a second, you guys have pretty ridiculous GPAs. And I think there's a bunch of money because you live here in Shawnee County that's already set up for you. Why are you going to get all this pain in the butt that spend your summer applying to 29 colleges? And it wasn't so much me selling Washburn, it was having an active conversation about being in a position of what we can win this year. And I feel like we're equipping that in a big way with some of already the immediate actions to make an intentional push to win Shawnee County. I think that's cool. Second thing I will say is obviously AE, Advisor Excel, one thing we're excited about, so a gift from Washburn to Advisor Excel in my mind is investing in the school business. We have, as we said, we have an awful lot of Washburn graduates work at the office. I think it's more than 40% at our office. And we're pretty indifferent on their degree. you look what's closest to our business, it would be the School of Business Degrees. That's the closest to where we have the most expansion and most growth. And so that being a modern facility, I think just attracts unbelievable kids that can ensure that while we're thinking about a 100-year vision, we need our local university to be our 100-year partner and for people. And so Cody and I, our entire team, along with our entire community, should be unbelievably excited about how that works. Because you have scholarship money and unbelievable facilities, and all of a sudden it becomes a lot easier to, in my mind, go back to the original statement, which is stay home. For those kids, we definitely want to stay here and grow here. Don't get me wrong, I think it also allows you to track outside, but let's be fair, I think the stay home game is the easiest thing to continue your expansion, because that momentum is created, that you can do all the other fun things and try to attract from wherever else you sit aside.
I think it's safe to say we agree, Dr. Behrman. Yes, okay.
Marshall, I think we need, I'm over here. I think we need to open up some audience questions.
I just want to say we really appreciate everything you've done for the community. I mean, it really is noticed and appreciated beyond probably what you are aware. My question is, keeping people here is great. One of the things, my history is housing, my career. And I think that housing is in need here. And I know you're not developers, but maybe you have some thoughts on that.
Cody?
Yeah, I would say it's probably not just a need here. I think there's a lot of communities that's a pretty big need. So I think I would say that we're seeing progress there, right? I think I don't know how to say this different, that all of those things are linked, right? I think it was third or fourth quarter, Topeka was named like the best housing market in the country. That attracts developers, right? If you look at there's some pockets where you're starting to see a lot of development. So I think as people see that, we don't always love the fact that cost of housing goes up some, right? You want to manage that to some degree, but I think as that happens, you'll continue to attract more and more, developers here. So I think there's some, probably just because I do a little bit more in that space, like I do think there are some positive things coming. Jim put up the first new apartment complex that we've seen in Topeka in a long time. It's going, exceptionally well. I think you'll probably see some things downtown around apartments here. I would guess in the next 6 months get announced. I think there are some developments that are being looked at, some housing developments, just from people I talk to. So, and I think that's I think I would say like our Topeka partnership realizes like that's one of their huge initiatives too. So those are one of those things that don't happen overnight, but I think the foundation is being laid where it's going to be attractive for people to come in and develop, which is what you want first. So I think we'll see positive steps in that direction, as we move forward. But yeah, we're behind probably where we need to be. So.
Hi, my name is Ira Stam. I'm a psychologist. I've been fortunate, if not blessed, when Joanna and I came to Topeka in 1972, a sign greeted us on Quicker on I-70 and 3rd Street. It said, "Welcome to Topeka, psychiatric capital of the world." I spent 23 years there, and you know the rest of the story. As they moved to Houston, I feel fortunate to have been here then and fortunate to be here now. I think the common, and to see the growth and development of advisors excel. The common denominator between Menningers and your organization, as I see it as an outsider, Menningers was outstanding. The mantra of Menningers was our family taking care of your family. The Menninger family taking care of the Menninger staff, who then in turn took care of the Menninger patients. I hear that theme in some of what you said, and as I've talked with your employees. I do want to say tongue-in-cheek, the reason I'm here today is I was hoping to get a raffle to join your staff on one of the trips to Mexico.
That was wonderfully stated. Thank you for
for that.
I'm Pamela Schmidt, I'm faculty in the School of Business, and I do teach some technology classes, and we in the School of Business are trying to accelerate virtual learning and combine remote and local, and I know you don't motivate towards remote work, but internally, I'm sure you use technology, and so with all the hype and all the actual progress in technology and digital transformation of business, I'd just like to hear a little bit about what are your main efforts or concerns and what kind of skills you would like us to help our students get for their careers.
I think I'd only comment on a couple of things specifically that are important to us. I think just continued development of technology is not going anywhere, right? The need for that type of talent is going to be necessary to move forward. And I think even as we've expanded with the Kansas City office to Advisors Excel, some of that has been we are attracting some of our technology talent in Kansas City, probably more so with securities technology or securities experience. So I think developing that foundation is really, really, really important to what we do. I think the area where we're investing more and more is the people that understand how to use technology to utilize data as core to our business. We do operate in the insurance space, and as I know you all don't know it, but it's pretty old school. And so because of that, we've been able to use a lot of people power to get here. But tomorrow we won't be able to do that. We're going to need actual people with experts in how to use technology to process data in an effective way to make things better. I think that's really, really core to what we're going to try to do. The other thing is, as we continue forward with the capabilities of technology, we are a huge customer service organization, talking to clients on the phone, talking to our advisors on the phone, and having that experience. We have big teams of people that do work that maybe technology can definitely enable to upgrade their work. So if we were better at technology, the work that they would do would be more advanced, which would make their job more enjoyable. If their job was more enjoyable, they would love Advisors Excel even more. We would all be winning together. So I think utilizing, having the expertise in technology that allows people to do their best work and technology to do its best work is going to be real important as we keep growing over the next 5 to 10 years.
Maybe one thing I'd add, just because I had this conversation last week, kind of specifically to Washburn Technology, we have probably, where we approach it, at 90, 100 people that we would say are on our technology team. So, coding, development, project management, a lot of those things. I would say Washburn's way behind in equipping students to be hired into a lot of those roles. I don't know enough to know what it takes to get to a point where it's very, very competitive in that. But I would say that is an area where we hire some, but not a ton out of here. And I don't know that that's been a huge focus, right? And I think that's one of those. I think Washburn's always got to be strategic and thoughtful. Where are the areas that you want to compete in and want to be great in, right? But I say all that and preface it by saying I don't know how anyone can look at what's going on, right, with artificial intelligence and some of the advancements that will be being made and not think over the next 10, 15, 20 years that that's going to be an important area to attract students. The quality of jobs that you get coming out of that, if you are blessed with some of those skills. And I should back up, we have hired some great people from Washburn and more of the data and the analytics side. So they're doing a good job there. We've made some really good hires in the past, even year, I guess, from here in that area. So, but I think just being thoughtful about that, because that, I don't want to say it's the future, but it's a big part of the future is going to be that. I think it's going to be important. One thing I thought Dave was going to say at the end is I also think, though, I say with my kids, right, that they're so tech enabled that oftentimes they're not great at being able to communicate with humans. And I think never losing sight of the fact that the people that understand technology but can also communicate with humans are going to be really, really successful. So I think figuring out how those other soft skills are worked into anything you're doing is going to be a big part of it too.
I'm Marge Arons, and I want to praise Washburn and also praise you. 3 departments have already helped the Central Topeka Grocery Oasis group that's trying to start a grocery bag in a part of the community that's really hungry. And you have a vision of giving that people need to know about. You haven't really expressed it yet today, because we know what you have done for this community that everybody doesn't know. So I'd like you to speak to your vision of how are you wanting to help, for instance, housing for those who are homeless, or people who are hungry and live below the poverty level and don't have access to a vehicle. Thank you.
You want me to start?
Well, I think we'll probably comment.
So I think foundationally, everything Dave and I have tried to do is this. Topeka is the community that we live in. You know, it's where we call home. It's where a large majority of the people that work for us live, choose to live also. So I've always said I don't understand if you have the means to make something better, why you wouldn't try and do it. So I think just, foundation, I don't think Craig gets talked about more than we're even comfortable with at times, candidly, but I don't know if you'll hear us talk a lot about it, but I think that the foundational, I would say probably our faith is probably the foundational driver of a lot of what we do, but I think secondarily to that is this is our home, right? So wanting this to be the best community it can be, now that we have some of the, I guess you'd say resources to help do that, I think it's just important to us. And if you were going to go from a selfish motive side of it, it's good for our business too, right? I think even going back, maybe 8, 9, 10 years ago, I remember Matt, who leads all our HR employee initiatives, said, even as we were trying to attract candidates into Topeka from outside, he goes, AE is a destination job. I'm not sure Topeka is a destination city right now. And so I think from, if you were going to look from a, capitalistic standpoint, like the better Topeka is, the better it's going to be for us too in attracting and retaining great talent, which is an important part of our business. So I don't know that I have more detail than that, but I would say foundationally, those are the things that are pretty important to us.
I'll reemphasize as Cody said, faith is central to who we are, and that faith roots you in love. Love builds cultures. It's not more confusing than that. If you genuinely show love to people, you'll watch cultures around you grow. I appreciate the kind words in the back and the comparison of managers and things. Basically what you said was love. They showed love to people. That's what they did. I think inside our walls and in Advisors Excel, we want to show love to our people. And actually speaker that says you can't say that, you gotta be careful, but again, it's not big. Again, well, you got a few teammates up front, so they won't make too big a deal, but you gotta show love to your people. But I think that externally, you've got to show love to your community. I will say the most important thing to me, and Cody's a builder. I'm probably more aligned with organizations. I think we got to have world-class organizations on the charitable side that have visions of growth and expansion. Because from Advisors Excel side, from Cody's side personally and his giving, from my family side personal giving, is I don't really want to invest in building anything. I just want to put great money behind great people that want to build something. And we have some amazing organizations that are absolutely doing that in Topeka. That's a lot of fun to do it. With that said, we mentioned the biblical stuff. We're probably not going to chat a lot about how much we're giving. That's just not who we are. And so that's why I think it stayed really quiet. Our goal actually is to stay as quiet as possible in perpetuity, and why you see most of the stuff that we get in the community. We're talking about each other, people out there in the work that goes that. I think for just Cody and I, that's really, really important as we think about the continued expansion.
And I'd be remiss not to say it is, Washburn's Day of Giving, so generosity is important. There's a lot of opportunities to give, right? Marshall,
Hey,
there, right?
One fun story, my last one. I'll be quick with it because I know we're about at the end, but oddly, when it comes to giving, because there was a question that we didn't get into, like how's philanthropy thought process changed? Obviously, Cody and I were super excited about the school business, and we're going to align with that. I would tell you 5 years ago, I would have thought that was nuts. I read a book. It was called The Billionaire That Never Was. It's a gentleman named Chuck Feeney. It's an amazing, amazing, amazing story. It should be a movie, honestly. The book is fun to read no matter what. But what I take away most from that is I was very, very negative on infrastructure. I didn't understand why it made any sense. I'm like, I don't understand. Don't I want to put money into people work, or don't I want to put money into the actual, the actual effort or the actual structure? I realized if you look into that book and you dig into it, basically he invested almost all his capital in infrastructure because those are foundational things that stay for 100 years and make an impact for a really, really long time. So I think like anything, if I can tell you the things that I didn't believe in that I was able to come along and how, I'll just make one comment. We're super proud to be aligning with Washburn in our efforts to get to the school of business and the expansion of that. And maybe if you were like me, take a look at that book, or actually I'm sure there's a YouTube video out there because there's a YouTube video on everything that's 15 minutes. You'd be missing a lot if you didn't read the book. But I would say even if you did that, I think it would show your heart a little bit more on why building infrastructure giving is super important long term to what things go. So I want that was my only really mandatory statement I wanted to make because it was something on my heart I wanted to share with you. So,
All right. Thank you guys both so much.